The greatest challenges for us were figuring out what to do.
I think it is intimidating.
I was very frustrated and very angry.
At times it can be confusing as well as overwhelming.
It's a very traumatic time.
Going through the juvenile justice process can often be confusing and overwhelming. However, actively participating in the process is essential.
You know, as a Hennepin County Commissioner and the parent to 5 children who weren't always perfect, I might add, during their teenage years, I recognize the challenges that parents face in raising children, and I well know the difficulties of navigating our juvenile justice system. And so all I can say is it is so critical for parents to be engaged from beginning to end as their child goes through this process.
Some 37% of our kids show up to court without a parental figure, and it's really heartbreaking, especially for the kids who are in detention. They come out, they look around, they look at the back door. Is anybody here for me? And that's an excruciatingly lonely moment to witness. That kid is really pretty heartbroken at that point.
Hennepin County has made it a priority to focus on issues regarding how youth and their families are treated in our juvenile system. This has been an important goal of our courts, probation, the Juvenile Detention Center, and other juvenile justice partners.
We're doing what we can to make the system more user-friendly, to show our respect and our need for parents to work with us. We can't do it by ourselves.
I had 2 sons who were doing stupid things and had gotten into a bit of trouble. It was, for me, quite devastating, and for their father.
Having a child brought to the Juvenile Detention Center is an experience that some youth and families find overwhelming. But with the right tools and information, we hope to help you and your child transition successfully through this process. This video will provide you with information about how the juvenile system works, how to successfully navigate through the system, and the importance of being involved in your child's case. Please understand that this system is a process, and the process takes time. With your input and support, we can work together to help you and your child work through the process.
So we get down there, and I'm frantic to see my 14 and 16-year-old sons. And I'm told, you know, you got to be here between this hour and this hour. You can't see them. So I think there could be a way of getting the information to the parents to be more user-friendly.
The Detention Center is a 24-hour secured facility for youth until they have a detention hearing before a judge. When a child is brought to the detention center, parents or guardians can visit their child within the first 24 hours. After the first 24 hours, parents or guardians can still visit their child during our normal visiting hours from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., 7 days a week, and from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturdays. In general, families cannot call their child directly, but the child is allowed to make a phone call once a day. When parents come to the Juvenile Detention Center, they should bring a state-issue photo ID. The detention center may have you verify your contact information, and it is crucial the correct information is entered into our system. Parents should also be prepared to tell staff about any medical or special needs their child might have. There is medical staff on site to deal with any medical issues.
We do have a 24-hour nursing, so we do have medical staff always here to attend to the medical needs of the residents. Parents need to know we do have programming. We provide school for the residents, Stadium View School. The school is accredited. They do earn credits from Minneapolis Public Schools, and they transfer over when they leave here.
The next step for youth in the detention center is to appear before a judge in what is called a detention hearing. At this stage, the judge will decide whether or not to release your child from the detention center. It is extremely important that parents attend these hearings.
I know sometimes young people are left to advocate for themselves, but they really don't have the skills in order to make some complex decisions.
Our feeling is you can't treat or rehabilitate kids without their families. So we need to work with the families to find out what the kids' needs are then to find services that are convenient, that they can get transportation to, where they are part of the programming that the kid receives, programming that is culturally appropriate, that is in a language that they can understand and communicate in.
While parents are strongly encouraged to attend hearings, we understand that this process is not always convenient. The court system is a process that takes time. A court case often requires lengthy wait times before actually appearing before a judge, and possibly additional hearings at a later date. While you are waiting, your child may have the ability to consult with their attorney prior to going into the courtroom. Some youth may also qualify for representation by a public defender.
Public defenders represent people who are in trouble with the law, and in juvenile court, we represent parents and children in child protection cases, as well as children who are facing delinquency charges.
The relationship with the attorney is important, as they will typically see your child through the entire court process, a process which at times can be complex and complicated.
Where it gets a little difficult is the rules and the law requires us to talk with the children alone, at least at the beginning of the case. So sometimes we will approach the child and family and ask to speak with the child alone, and that does create some irritation with parents. They want to be in the room with the child, but we have to, by law, talk with the kids alone. Sometimes the parents' interests and the child's interests aren't the same.
However, it is highly encouraged for youth and parents to actively participate in the court process and for parents to attend all court hearings.
I think it's very important for them to be at court. There are a fair number of kids who come into the detention courtroom and there's no parent or guardian there. If we don't have a parent there to say, yes, I want my child home, the judge might not release the child.
The prosecuting attorney represents the state's interest in helping to ensure community safety. They will review the case to determine whether they will bring formal charges against a respondent.
So we take into account a number of different considerations. We look at the interests of the community, we look at input from the victim, we look at what's in the interests, what are the risks, the needs of the child.
If you are not able to attend, it is often suggested to send a family member on your behalf. However, please note that information that is shared with you as a parent may not be available to other family members. At the first appearance, or arraignment, the youth is charged with their offense. During this stage, the child is asked to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. At this stage, you may be asked to provide phone numbers and contact information for court files. It is extremely important to provide accurate information and to update the courts if any of your contact information changes. During pre-trial hearings, the prosecution and defense lawyers discuss the case and see if it can be settled. If the case settles, the youth will admit to the charge, and the judge may specify certain conditions for your child at what is known as a disposition hearing. If the case does not settle, the case will go to trial where the facts are presented, and the child may be found guilty or not guilty, or the case may be dismissed. At a disposition hearing, the judge will make a decision about what the child will be required to do, getting probation, service, or to complete restitution. After court, clients must go through the probation intake process. This is typically the first step to getting probation, sentenced to service, or community service hours set up. During your intake meeting, the intake officer will require some additional information like address, phone numbers, and school information. Taking care of this right after the hearing and doing some of the preliminary tasks will help ensure you will not have to come back and do it later. They will also determine which probation region your child will be assigned to. All of our probation is set up by regions so that we can better serve the youth and their families in their own community. We have the North region, a South region, and a suburban region. All locations are also on bus lines, so you have easier access to the facilities. Once the intake process is complete, a probation officer who will be assigned will contact you and your child. Once you are assigned your officer, he or she will meet with you and your child to start building a case management plan. The role of the probation officer is to support your youth in completing court orders.
The role of the probation officer is to make sure the youth is provided with services and make sure that they stay in school and make sure they're on track to completing their probation.
Many of our youth are also ordered to complete restitution. Restitution attempts to restore the damage that has been committed by the child's offense. Restitution is used to pay back the victim of their crime.
A lot of victims of juvenile crimes have suffered some kind of monetary loss. Most of them want to be paid back in some way. I think a lot of times our children don't realize that that's really the most important part of restitution, is for the victim to see that the child is being held accountable and is taking responsibility for what they did.
We hope that this video has provided you with a better understanding of the juvenile justice process. We want to again urge parents to be informed, involved, and a partner with us as your child transitions through this process.
So I think one thing that's really important to remember as you advocate for your child through this process is that the people in the system, the judges, the probation officers, the public defenders, they all want to support you and your child. Our system works better if you're involved at that level.
I think that a parent being involved with their child also is the beginning of reconciliation with the community, and it's also a teachable moment to experience the entire process, but with goals of improving, and I believe it can be life-changing.